What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh. What you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. With me, Chris Fry. We are with the Foot Candle Film Festival and the Foot Candle Film Society right here in Western North Carolina. And Chris, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to talking about Sean Baker's latest with you. I think we've reviewed one of his other films, maybe two. I think we did. I definitely talked about the Florida Project.
I think we did Tangerine as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So we have discussed him before on the show. So
yeah. So as Chris is alluding to and kind of giving you the tease on that, our review today on this episode will be the film Anora by writer-director Sean Baker and starring I got to make sure I get the names right here, Chris. A
lot of Russian names.
Mikey Madison.
Yes.
That's it. Mikey Madison. Sorry. So yes, that'll be the film we'll be reviewing, Anora, here in just a few minutes. After we do that review of Anora, we are going to jump into some news and trailers for some upcoming films that we're going to talk about and share. I've got plenty of trailers to choose from, Chris. Honestly, it's going to be a game time decision which ones we pull out of the little the spinning wheel of trailers I've got to pick from. So we'll see whatever mood we're in after our conversation of Anora, what kind of trailers we want to watch and see for upcoming films. And then I believe, Chris, you do have a recommendation for us to share as well at the end of the episode. I actually kind of do too. A little mini one I'll throw in at the end, but we'll reserve most of the time for you.
And I have seen the recommendation that I'm making this week.
As opposed to the one last week that you still have not seen. The one you recommended last week.
I barely caught up with Anora before this review. So no, I still have not seen The Wild Robot. I'm hoping to catch it in theaters.
So Chris made a presumptuous recommendation last week.
Based on my niece and nephew's recommendation.
And that's perfectly fine. Just, I'm anxious to hear Chris Fry actually sees the film and is like, I need to retract it or whatever. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. All right, Chris. Well, let's get ready to go into our main review. It is the film by writer-director Sean Baker. It is Anora.
Yo. Did you pick up milk?
Do you see milk in the fridge?
No.
Then I didn't pick up the fucking milk.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Let's go to the ATM. We will go chill out in a private room.
I got a kid who wants someone who speaks Russian.
My Russian is terrible. I can't even roll my R's.
No.
Я просто хотел тебе предложить. Ты хочешь быть эксклюзивно со мной?
Anora, a young sex worker from Brooklyn, played by Mikey Madison, meets and impulsively marries the son of an oligarch. Once the news reaches Russia, her fairy tale is threatened as his parents set out for New York to get the marriage annulled. And that description comes from IMDb, as well as these category identifiers: romantic comedy, drama, romance. Alan, how do you feel like the classification of those subject clarifiers for Anora as a film work? And what was your overall take on Sean Baker's Anora?
Okay, so the four tags, I'm looking at them right now too, are comedy, drama, romance, and then you got the combination romantic comedy.
Yes. They could have just said like romantic dramedy, and then they would have gotten all of them together.
Okay, I will let it have the word comedy. I'll explain a little bit. That one I'm okay staying in the mix. Drama, yes, definitely can stay in the mix. Romance, to a point, sure. Romantic comedy, no, I don't think it goes into the romantic comedy as a joint cluster category there. But there are comedic moments. There are definitely
You're gonna
dramatic
You're going to need to
moments.
remind me of those.
No, I do feel like there was. And I think there are attempts at romance, but that's also, the film is also understanding the fact that it is just merely attempts and
Sure.
not true romance that we're seeing. So, Anora, I really liked this film quite a bit.
Okay.
I found it to be surprising than what I expected. Where to go with this? I knew basically, I think, what the premise of the film was.
Okay.
I did not expect it to be the tone and style that it ended up being. And I liked it for that because it was different than what I expected. It's hard, Chris. I don't know how much of the plot I really want to talk about because, I mean, I feel like the film takes a kind of change in tone and scope and everything about halfway through the film.
Yes.
And the latter half of the film is a very different type of film than the first half of the film.
Agreed.
Okay. So
that is fair to say. Without
so
spoiling
it is tough because honestly, I liked both halves of the film, but I was pleasantly surprised with what the second half of the film entailed. And I will say that I think I was really drawn to Mikey Madison's performance here as Annie, as she likes to go by. I thought she was great, although this is also a film that I can't really say I really liked any of the characters, but I think that's also by design. I don't think you're supposed to be enamored by any of these characters necessarily. There are moments where the film could have easily gone into its, people have kind of said that this is like a very, very R-rated, very extreme version of Pretty Woman.
And combined with like Cinderella.
Yeah,
Cinderella.
exactly.
Sure.
And it definitely leans into that. There's even some references to Disney princesses at one point. There's, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of that. And there are moments where Sean Baker could have said, let's go the more traditional route with this story and end it on this beat or go in this direction. And he chose not to, which I admired. I'm happy it did not go quite as I was expecting. And, but I'll tell you, Chris, I was at a pretty warm feeling about this film until the last scene. And the last scene then cranked it up a notch for me, where I'm a big fan of this film. And I think it's amazing to me that this film gets you feeling one way, a certain way about the film and what's transpiring and about the plot. And by the last scene, you kind of had to go backwards and almost recount and kind of reframe everything in the film you just saw. That's kind of how I took with the ending. And I think it was a really, really good ending. So the film automatically kind of added an extra star on the rating for me by the ending time. So that's where I am with it. Again, it's tough because, again, I don't, the things I really appreciate about the film, I feel like if I talk about it too much, it does kind of tip its hand to where the film goes. And I think that's part of the fun of the film is not knowing where it's going to go. So it's a little trickier to talk about. But Chris, I've rattled on. It's your turn. Tell me what you thought of Anora.
So I guess Sean Baker he's the independent filmmaker's filmmaker. I'm not sure how he finances his films, but they all tend to be kind of rough around the edges, using, I think, sometimes non-professional actors. In this film, we mentioned kind of how, like, some people come over from Russia, and it seems like, at least in the credits, you have several names that seem to be from that region. Maybe not necessarily Russian, but definitely not, typical American names. He seems to really like cast a wide net and try to get authentic feeling people in the different roles. And I felt like that was definitely the case here with Anora. It feels just like kind of with the Florida Project. We threw that one out, and Tangerine, but if you didn't know better, you could almost think it was a documentary because of just how it's very grounded and the dialogue seems very real. Things don't seem to be very contrived.
Yeah.
And in this story, the people working at the gentleman's club, and they just seem to be very, very legitimate, very real. And I saw in the credits that I think the club's called like HQ or something in New York, and that is a legitimate because they give the club credit, like thanks for letting us shoot here. So that's a legitimate club. And I'm like, well, that doesn't surprise me because it seems like that's something Sean Baker would do. I think what threw me a little bit, even though like you said, we'd both seen the trailer, we knew kind of the premise going in, was the fact that I was aware, I guess because in the app that I pulled up to reserve my ticket for Anora, they had it classified. They didn't throw the word drama in there. It was just a single identifier as comedy. And I'm aware that Sean Baker was the writer and director for it. So I'm like, okay, it's not going to be Anchorman or it's not going to be Pretty Woman. But I was like, that's interesting that they are trying to steer the public into thinking to get butts in seats. This is more of a comedy. But I knew kind of feeling like, no, this is going to be a dramedy. It's not going to be a and I think the grittiness and the kind of dark tone where some things go, not that it surprised me, but it made me kind of forget. Like, I joked when you were saying like, oh, there were some bits of comedy. I'm like, well, you're going to have to remind me of those because overall, I guess just because of the tone of it, I kind of forgot that stuff. Like I can say, yeah, there were little moments here and there, but like overall, just it to me did seem pretty much a mashup of a Cinderella, Pretty Woman type tale, but dark, gritty.
Oh yeah, absolutely dark.
With the slightest bit of light at the end of the tunnel with the conclusion of the film. But still, even the light you see is very bittersweet and sad.
Oh no,
Really sad.
I don't take it. It's not a happy ending.
No, and it's kind of a gut punch.
Yes.
That gives you a little bit of hope, but still a gut punch.
Well, it reframed the whole film for me because look, all right, here's how I can get into the latter half of the film becomes a bit of more of a not a chase movie, but more of a it's an all-nighter kind of trip around the city trying to find somebody. Right. And, our main Annie, our lead, is with some Russian
employees.
Armenian employees who are on a mission to do something, and she's kind of a part of that.
Right.
And there is comedy there, only because I do think the three Armenian / Russian henchmen,
sure,
I do think have some real, only because Sean Baker lets them be real people, which is what's funny, is that to hear them having to deal with situations where one of them is feeling sick and is getting sick because of something, and others are maybe slightly uncomfortable with what's happening or trying to fight within each other about how they're going to proceed on something. It was all very funny, and there was a lot of laughter from the very few people in the theater with me at the time during those scenes, because they were funny. But what works on all this is that when you get to the end of the film, you may have thought that the last 30 to 45 minutes, you're kind of watching a little bit more of a madcap, not madcap comedy, but a madcap kind of, let's run around. We got to go find these people. And we got to do this. And there's like little kind of cracking jokes along the way and people being kind of ridiculous. But you get to the end of this film and you get to these last couple scenes and it's like, oh no, actually what I've been watching for the last 2 hours is pretty freaking dramatic and traumatic. And I need to be reminded of that. And that's what that last couple scenes kind of helps reframe it to do. So yeah, you can get caught up in the machinations of what's happening on screen and kind of the funnier moments and the more frantic moments and all that. But at the end of the day, and you got some characters in, I'll just say in her boyfriend, husband, the parents. Yeah. Okay. They are they're probably the broadest characters in the whole film. Just kind of, they're a little bit of what you would expect. By that point in the film could have been seen as a little bit of a very, very extreme and left turn of a Pretty Woman that went in a completely different direction than what that first film did. But it's that last couple scenes. And again, I give Madison real credit for her role in this. And I'm also going to call out the other character that plays an important part. Nazar Kamis is Vlad in the latter part of the film. I really think those two just make this film ending work. So, or not Vlad, Igor. Sorry,
Oh, yeah, you were throwing me there for a second.
You're Borisov. Sorry, my apologies. Though I saw a Vlad and I saw an Igor, and I got confused. So Igor is the one that he and Mikey Madison, probably at the end of the film, really just bring it home and make you realize what you've been watching for the last 2.5 hours, and framed it, I think, the way it needed to be framed.
So yeah, you're mentioning Yuri Borisov as the thug, Igor, one of the three. I guess he's the lesser of the thugs, but still thug, henchman. What do you know?
He's thug number 3.
And that going into the film, you seem to be as high on it as a lot of critics are. Like this, a lot of people advertise like film of the year. I mean, the thing just has a high score in Letterboxd. It's like a 4.2. It's just seems to be IMDb. I think it's like at an 8 or what, an 8 out of 10. So yeah, it's just being really well received, and I liked it. But I think a lot of people like it a whole lot more than me. But I will say the surprise for me in the film was I heard all the hype about Mikey Madison. And I was like, okay, and yes, she does a good job. Yeah. So no surprise there because I've been hyped for that. But I hadn't heard anything about Yuri Borisov and his role as Igor. Like that's what kept me in the film was him, because otherwise, if it hadn't have been for him, the way his character was written, and even the acting, the portrayal, like minimal dialogue, but the subtle expressions that go across his face, like that just communicates so much, and then kind of the role he has towards the ending of the film. Just that was like grace notes that kept me involved with it, and that's what stood out to me. And I don't know, who knows how people consider different categories. So I don't know if he could be considered a supporting character, but I'd want him like a best supporting character, because I don't know if you can put him up in the supporting category because of the amount of screen time.
It's pretty minimal, and
he's great.
And the fact it's not helped that the fact that he has very little dialogue, as you said too. That's just his role. That's
I guess if Judi Dench can win for Elizabeth, or
that's
whatever,
true. One scene in Shakespeare in Love. So
right. So then I would say that he definitely, for me, supporting character in Anora. Yeah, that made it worthwhile, and very subtle because there again not a lot of dialogue. It's just facial expressions, but some of the memorable, I guess, more comedic things that worked for me, or that I could find myself laughing at, even though the tone was very kind of dark and gritty, had to do with him. And
it was he brought a very dry humor to some of the situations where the other two quote thugs definitely leaned into more of the broader comedy,
which
side
was still
of it.
funny. But
No, and I honestly love that whole section of the film. I thought it was really fun to watch and fun to see these people engage. But again, I found myself losing sight of what was really happening to this girl, to Annie during this whole thing. You kind of get lost in it. It's like you're playing up, how are they going to convince her to do this? And how are they going to find this person? And how are they going to, it's all, you're caught up in so much of that and the franticness of it. And you do lose sight of the fact of you forget what all was probably happening in the mind of Annie during this whole time. Right. This whole night was just traumatic as all get out for her. And that's where we see that at the end. And it's like, okay, yeah, my bad, Annie, I'm sorry. I forgot it. I've lost sight of what's happening to you this last hour. And thank you for reminding me with this last sentence.
And I could say, hearing you say that, and knowing the type of writer-director Sean Baker is, I think that's kind of intentional in a way, because it's kind of like the spell that he weaves. You get the introduction, the Cinderella fairy tale, this sex worker meets this guy who's really rich, and they have this romance or anything. And then he kind of makes you forget through some of the humor and some of the chasing around and stuff. But then he brings you back. He's like, no, I want you to remember these are real people. Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not. They're characters, but this is a real life type situation. These people are based on, it just tries to ground it a lot more in the end. So I guess it's not surprising from a filmmaker like Sean Baker that he does that. So I looking at it through that lens too, I will say that, that's kind of a cool trick that he pulls off.
It was really nice. We haven't mentioned the actor playing Ivan. Right. Who is Annie's kind of romantic partner in this film for a good bit of it. Mark Eidelstein, and
He's like the poor man's Timothy Chalamet.
yeah,
In a way
look,
to me.
he's really good in the role he plays. Yeah. It just so happens I really hated this character, but
Right.
again,
I
you're
think-
meant to,
sure.
and that's understandable. But he played it extremely well. So I mean, I thought all the acting was really great. I liked all the characters in this, and I do agree. I think the ones that we don't know for sure, like offhand, without doing a lot more research, if any of them are non-traditional actors or actual just people pulled from their professions to be in this film. But you could have fooled me because they all just really seemed very natural with what they were doing. So yeah,
I do know one of the other, for lack of a better term, thugs.
Mm-hmm.
I think the one that plays the older one, Karen Gullion or something. I'm not sure how you say his name. He plays the character in the movie. His character's name is Toros.
Toros.
He's been in other Sean Baker films. So he's kind of like a returning character, or not returning character, but a returning actor. And apparently, I never remembered him from it. So I think the other roles, he was much more of a minor character. And this is one of the bigger roles that he's had in one of Sean Baker's films. So that's kind of cool that somebody that's been around for a little bit is now getting more screen time, more exposure, more pivotal or more important role. I guess I should say.
No, I
So
agree.
that's
Look,
cool.
and I really just I grew more and more fascinated with his character as the film went on. I mean, where we were introduced to him, Toros, as he's presiding over a baptism, I think.
Maybe not presiding over, but he's like the Godfather, and he's dressed up as in this outfit. And
all right, so he's
definitely at a baptism.
Yeah,
and
he's
it's like
just and he's taking the text message to
Right.
find out about a situation that now he has to go attend to. So he's
which there's comedy. There's comedy there.
There's a little bit that's set up, and then the fact that I guess it's his brother is Garnick, one of the other thugs, and they have a very contentious kind of back and forth a lot. And
Yes.
and then you've got Igor, as we were mentioning, just kind of being the more silent, reacting partner of the trio, and I don't know, those three had a really fun dynamic to watch. But again, it's fun in the scope of realizing that this is still a very dramatic situation happening over the course of this night or 2 days that we're following. So
Yeah, it's a short amount of time. And
Yeah.
we didn't even mention, listeners, you may be aware, this film won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival most recently. So yeah, it's got some buzz around it.
Yeah.
I'll say too that thinking about it in the context of Sean Baker's work, I'm wondering where it falls as far as budget, because I'm assuming maybe it's one of the higher ones, because they did shooting in New York City, then they had to go to Vegas and had a lot of
Las
stuff in
Vegas.
Vegas. So it just seemed to be more of one of the more location specific, like, Florida Project, like in and around a hotel, that's kind of what that one was. Tangerine, just like out in, I believe it's LA.
Yeah, streets of LA.
Yeah. So, but still very like confined, where this seemed to be a multiple location thing. So obviously maybe that's, growing as a filmmaker doing that.
Yeah, could
So-
be. Probably a little bigger cast too.
Sure. Yeah.
Involved in
That's
it,
true.
I'd say
That's
too,
true.
because of multiple locations, multiple cast groups in different places.
And they go to Coney Island as well.
Oh, yeah.
So there's just a lot of,
There's a lot.
it's interesting.
I think it's, look, I've only seen 2 other films by Sean Baker. I have not seen Red Rocket, and I feel like there's another one I'm missing. Is
Well, the
there-
major ones that I'm aware of are, Tangerine, Florida Project, Red Rocket, and then Anora. I mean, there's one that he did, I think, prior to Tangerine called Starlet, which I have not seen.
He's done a few other,
Yeah, he has done
but
other.
as far as that kind of his writer-director efforts, Tangerine, Florida Project, Red Rocket, and now Anora. I've seen 3 of the 4. And Anora's my favorite. I like Florida Project quite a bit. I like Tangerine as well. I like all 3 of them. It's just, I think they progressively have gotten better in my mind as far as my appeal from them. So
I think Red Rocket, for me, there wasn't a whole lot there. I mean, and that I think was more straight out towards like the comedy type. I mean, there was still seriousness there, but that was more of what that was doing. And that one just overall, there wasn't a lot there for me. Full disclosure, mentioned I do have a recommendation, but what I was going to try to get around to seeing and therefore maybe recommending was Starlet. And I couldn't find it anywhere like streaming or whatever, but I wanted to check that out to kind of recommend a lesser known Sean Baker, but unfortunately I didn't get to it. So that'll have to wait.
I will say, I think Mikey Madison's very, very good. I think I've already mentioned that, but I thought her performance was great. I mean, again, I bought it the whole time. Who she was, understood what her desires in life were. I mean, it was very easy to follow. And she's reacting and acting much how I would expect her to act and react in various situations she finds herself in. So all kudos to that for that performance.
And she's been in lots of other things.
She's been in a few other things. So she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. She was one of the Manson attackers at the
I believe she gets roasted in the swimming pool.
She does.
Right?
I think she's the one with the flamethrower in the swimming pool.
Right.
She was also in, oh gosh, it was another film that she was in that I had forgotten she was a part of. She was in Scream, the latest version of Scream. I guess I could say spoiler. She's the killer in that film. Ooh. So sorry, I ruined that for anybody who had not seen the 2022 version of Scream.
Well, at least it's 2 years past.
Version. Yeah, so. The statute of limitations has passed. I can say it.
So
yeah,
I never saw this. So did you saw it?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I did. Yep. And she was she was the bad guy.
And she's done some TV work as well.
She has like a TV show, Better Things. Okay. She played. So yeah. So really, that's been about it though. She was in Scream. She had a small part in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood at the end, and now Anora. So yeah, this is kind of her big big role there. So yeah, I really liked the film. I was pleasantly surprised by the film. Yes, it was different than I kind of expected based on previews and trailers and whatnot. I was happy that the film did not get more violent or traumatic than it did, because it could have easily have gone in some routes if it chose to, but the film wanted to stay, I felt, more real. And I think looking at this situation, if the situation were to transpire with this young woman and having married this rich Russian, son of a rich family, and there's some tension there. I'm glad everything transpired the way I felt like it probably naturally could have or would have in that situation without going to any extremes any more than it had to. And that realism, I think, just kind of kept it grounded, even though that realism also led to, I felt like, some great humor at times, all capped with a very dramatic ending that I feel like reframed the whole film for me and kind of put it in a much better perspective. I was probably in a 3.5 level before the ending of star, 3.5 star out of 5.
Sure.
Getting to the ending, I'm like, oh no, that bumped it up to a 4. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm happy with the way it ended.
And I think, yeah, the ending, I'll echo that. The ending for me also kind of kicked the film up a notch. I think I was feeling frustrated is not the right word. Maybe a little not bored, but let's say the first act, if you're going to divide the film up into 3, well, maybe it's just 2. Anyways, the first part of the film, kind of like I guess if you could call it a meet cute between the two characters and everything, and I guess maybe it's because of the grittiness and seeing like the sex work aspect of it, which I know Sean Baker does not shy away from that stuff. It was in Tangerine. He definitely didn't shy away from it in Red Rocket.
Not.
He's like,
not shied away here.
But I kind of was like, okay, yes, I get it. I kind of got a little numb to it in a way. And it was only when the family dynamic kicked in and then that kind of got in gear that I was like, okay, now I don't have to see this couple having sex constantly. It's just, I needed something, but I can see how that's part of it. And you need to understand, I can see why it was there, but at the time in the film, I was kind of like, okay,
I feel like the whole first 2 hours of this film, yes, some parts are repetitive. Some parts are long. Some parts are, yes, we get the point. We know what this relationship is based on. And we now know when they go out on the search later in the film, we know what they're trying to do. And it's just kind of waiting for them to get to that end point. But again, I think that's all intentional.
Sure.
So that by the end of the film, we kind of have that big sense of release, kind of like Anora or Annie does, where it's like, yeah, we're now, these 2 hours basically encapsulated her entire life for these last however many days.
Right.
I guess week, because, the first half of the film spans about a week, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
At least a couple
I
of days.
think about a week
yeah.
or so. And then that latter half
Yeah, that's right,
spans
because
just
she
a night.
takes a week off from her job.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You're right. Yes.
And then the latter half spans just over a one night in the next day.
I think so, yeah.
But I think we're supposed to feel almost like a compressed version of everything she experienced. So we're supposed to feel like, yeah, that relationship with him, it's a lot of sex and it's a lot of partying and it's a lot of frantic and energy and fun. And then it's this change to this whole different dynamic of their relationship. And it's like, yeah, by the end, it's like, okay, yeah, that was a lot going on in that last week or so. And we have a little bit of an exhale release, just like she does at the end in her final scene. So anyway, I hear what you're saying. Yes, there are some parts that go on a little long. There's some parts that are a little repetitive. The film was a bit longer than I think we probably would have liked for it to be. But I think we're supposed to feel the same way she does at the end by having experience and having everything all thrown at us over that 2-hour period like she was. Anyway.
Fair enough.
I'm giving Sean Baker a lot of credit for what he did on this. I think that was
Deservedly
part of it.
so.
I think that was part of it. So, all right. Well, that is the movie Anora. We will certainly see if it is being batted around at all come award season, because I know we are getting to that time of year where this is the films that start coming out, the ones they feel like might have some chance. It had the Cannes acclaim that you mentioned already, so we will see. Mikey Madison, Best Actress nod on this. I could see that.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
I mean, I
myself.
think the only thing, just because of, you just figure the Academy and how I guess sometimes they're stereotyped subject matter of the film. But, I mean, Academy's been a lot more open to things like Moonlight winning Best Picture.
Right.
So, maybe. So
I could see this getting batted around. I think it's got a chance of being in the conversation for sure. So, all right. Well, that is Anora. It is playing. It's semi-wide release. I mean, it made it to Hickory, North Carolina. So that's about as wide as a release as you're probably going to get.
True.
So I'm giving it a strong recommendation. Chris, you're recommending it as well. Just maybe not as strong as I am. Maybe it's not.
And definitely don't go in if you're scanning your app on your phone when you're going to buy tickets or whatever. Yeah. Don't believe the comedy. Don't go in for comedy. I mean, I do think there is some comedy there, but don't go in wanting a comedy film, because that's not what this is meant to be. This is a drama. Yeah. And it's not a romance either. I don't feel like is a fair. I think that's fair.
branding.
Yeah. So I would recommend it, but it's not for everyone for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is Anora by writer-director Sean Baker. So, Chris, we're going to break and come back, and we've got some trailers and a little bit of accompanying news to go over before we get to our recommendations at the end of the episode. So everybody stay tuned. Come on back here in just a minute. We'll be right back with Foot Candle Films.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. We had our review of Sean Baker's Anora in the first half of the show, but now let's turn our attention to some films coming up in the very near future. We like to watch trailers. Well, we don't like to watch trailers. We do watch trailers. We have a love-hate relationship with trailers. I'm trying hard, Chris, to pick trailers for us to watch and dissect and talk about that I don't feel like are going to spoil anything for the film itself.
As long as we don't, as we've mentioned, make the mistake of like the Soderbergh trailer where all it was music.
Right.
And
well,
text on the screen.
I will say I've seen all these trailers.
You've done your due diligence.
I've done my due diligence.
Nice.
So let me just kind of round up to give you an idea of what my options were, but why I'm not going to be showing you some trailers that I had queued up.
Okay.
I realized, so there is a brand new trailer for the new Captain America movie, which I'll just go and say I'm excited about, but we've already seen the first one.
Okay, so
we saw the first one, like a first trailer. So I'm not going to show the second one.
Previously, I think you were a little hesitant.
I was a little hesitant.
So now you're
I have
excited.
warmed up to it after seeing the trailers and thinking more about it. I'm a little more excited.
Captain America: Brave New World.
Correct. You
Okay.
got it. So anyway, I'm not going to show
the
the
marketing's working. I remember the title.
good deal. Kudos to Marvel for their
Does
marketing team.
Come out before the end of the year?
No, I think it
So
is
it's 2025 release.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
2025.
Okay.
So I'm not going to show you the second trailer for that because that's a little redundant. We've already done that once. A trailer has come out for a film I had no idea they were making a fourth one of. And I'm not going to show the trailer because I've not seen any of these films before. Bridget Jones?
You haven't seen the first one?
I haven't seen any of them.
Okay. That's a little surprising to me.
Yeah.
Not that you haven't seen the other ones, but I've definitely seen the first. I think that's the only one I've seen was the first one. Renee Zellweger.
Bridget Jones's Diary.
Yeah.
And then it's Bridget. Yeah, you're right. There's been
Bridget
two
Jones
others.
has a baby. I think was maybe the third one.
Something. Yeah, I don't know. This one is Bridget Jones 4.
Okay.
Mad About the Boy.
Okay.
That's it. And it has Hugh Grant in it.
Colin Firth, because I think those were the two guys in the first one. I think.
I don't know. Do we watch the trailer? I don't know anything about this franchise. I don't know these films. I kind of I don't want to watch it right now.
Okay. No, still, yeah, I'm not. I saw the first one. It was okay, but it's typical kind of. Is it based on a? I want to say it's based
It was based on a book. I know
Okay.
that for a fact. Bridget Jones' Diary was based on a book.
So I saw the first one. And it was cute enough. But
All right. Well, there's a fourth one coming out.
whiz.
Just
Yeah.
to know that. Let's see. And then, a few other trailers were kind of like repeat, like new trailers of films that we've already talked about. So anyway,
Okay.
let's do this instead. I'm going to show one trailer that, Chris, I know I am expecting eye rolls visually here within the room when you're watching this.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I gave a little bit of an eye roll in a couple places too. But
Okay.
this will be a big film, and I think it's something that we have to still watch and talk about, or at least give our thoughts on.
Is it a sequel?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oh, it's the sequel of all sequels, Chris. It is like a mega sequel. It is a franchise latest installment, and it has Mr. Franchise featured in it. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's the 8th film
Oh my
in a
gosh.
series.
8th film. It's not a Transformer film because they had one of those come out. It was animated, but that was different. No, I don't.
And there's a lot of running.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen that, but I have not seen the trailer for the latest Tom Cruise film. But I do know there's running in it. Because that was spoiled for me. Somebody made a joke about there being. I'm like, well, of course there's running. Why wouldn't there be?
But I almost think they're doing it as a joke now.
Is the whole trailer nothing but him running?
It's a lot of him running.
That's amazing.
So here is the trailer for Mission Impossible.
Is it slow motion running set to Chariots of Fire? That would be hilarious.
No, it's not quite that obvious, but they have kind of rebranded this last one. It is now Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. If you recall, the last one was Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mm-hmm. Now they're just saying this is the Final Reckoning. They've kind of ditched the Part 2, I guess, nomenclature.
Something I was a little disappointed in. We'll have to wait and see how the film does. But I heard that this may not be the last Mission Impossible film.
Of course. Well, it depends on how it does money-wise.
And see, I was like, come on.
If this one does less than the previous one, which the previous one underperformed,
Okay.
then this very well could be it.
I saw the movie poster that they released was just one of like Tom Cruise with like bruises and cuts all over his face.
No, and believe me, I've said I have no shame in saying this. I like Tom Cruise. I admire him as an actor. I admire his efforts in his productions. And I like the Mission Impossible franchise. I was a little let down with the last one. I did not feel like it worked as well.
Yeah, I feel like now the villain being AI is just going to be like, really? Like,
And I don't know if they still
what's
followed
the name
up
of the
on
AI
that.
too? It's like,
I don't know, Charlie or something.
I can't remember.
I don't remember what it was. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, let's watch the teaser trailer for what's, quote, the Final Reckoning Mission Impossible.
So we're just going to hear a lot of Tom Cruise heavy breathing and like
you're not
fast footsteps.
I apologize to everybody on an audio podcast because there's not a lot of, I don't remember there being a lot of dialogue in this trailer. It's just a lot of thematic beats of the music and explosions and all that. So anyway, here you go. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Here's the teaser trailer.
lives are not defined by any one action. Our lives are the sum of our choices.
Everything you are, everything you've done, has come to this.
I counted 8 shots of Tom Cruise running.
There's a lot of running. Something I will say I liked. I will say some likes from the trailer.
Yeah. I like.
Well, I know
I'm
you
excited.
do.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
yeah.
Go ahead, please tell me.
I am not. But I will say the trailer, from what I don't remember a lot about the trailer that came out for Dead Reckoning, but I wasn't interested in it. Yes, all I did was eye roll the entire time. This is a well cut trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me interested in the film just because it looks good. I will say too, I liked the use of voiceover and Ving Rhames, who I've always liked him. I like him in this franchise, and him seeming to play a little bit like, I was like, oh, cool. They're kind of giving him a spotlight moment in the trailer. I like that. Yes, the running gets a little ridiculous. Maybe it was done on purpose. And then like you get snapshots of here are all the stunts that Tom Cruise is really going to do. And look at all these death-defying stunts that he's actually doing. Yes, eye-rolling to me. Now, I will point out something else that I liked. I am curious to see if they can maintain that during this stunt. We see 2 biplanes, one red, one yellow, against some trees, and it's really a beautiful shot. If they could actually play that action sequence, which I'm sure he's going to be dangling out of a plane, we see that in the trailer at some point, but up until that moment happens, if they can actually make that kind of like a beautiful soaring with like these planes drifting around, like that would actually be, and it's still a chase, but make it more air quotes majestic or something. That would actually be kind of cool because that was a really beautiful shot there.
I agree.
So I don't know. I mean, the line that Mr. Cruise leaves us on, I need to try one last time. I'm like,
one last time.
Can I trust you that this is that? Can I actually put my trust in you, Mr. Cruise, that you're going to do this film and you're going to walk away from that? Yeah. Can I put my? I don't know, Tom. Can I? Can I trust you one last time? Yeah,
but there's a part of me that's like, I don't want you to, Tom. Keep going,
which he almost did before when Jeremy Renner did, and he's like, nope, got to come back.
No, I'm coming back.
So,
all right, well, that is the new Mission Impossible with, of course, Mr. Tom Cruise coming out sometime next year.
And they would have done really well, at least for me. I guess I feel like they have to kind of remind you of things from the last movie. But other than the AI being kind of stupid, the other thing that I can't remember, I'd have to look back at my Letterboxd review. I think I put it in there. About how dumb I thought the little key was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the key's all over this trailer.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. The thing that I thought was really stupid about there's just like this stupid
bringing it back.
Stupid little key, and like they show it frozen in the ice. Like, really? But
this is for you, Chris. You brought the key back.
Right, just for you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that was that trailer. I'm still excited.
Okay, I mean,
can't play. Whatever.
It was a good. It was a good trailer.
Yeah, it was a good trailer. All right, let's check out a trailer for a film that I'm only playing because we talked about Ray Fiennes several times in the last few episodes. With his performance in Conclave, we talked about, and you did a recommendation of Grand Budapest Hotel. Uh-huh. So we kind of got on a little bit of a Ray Fiennes, our love for Ray Fiennes kind of jaunt for a little while, a couple weeks ago.
Gotcha.
So lo and behold, surprising as I'm browsing trailers of new films, there's a new trailer that's come out just yesterday for a film called The Return that stars Ray Fiennes and also has Juliette Binoche in it. And I know nothing about this film. I've never heard of it. And it's coming out December 6th in theaters.
Probably, usually when we see something like that, not a good sign.
Right. No. But it is Ray Fiennes. And I will just say for anybody who's curious, if I know this is, again, audio podcast, visually I can't. I'm going to try to describe it to you. If you see the thumbnail image for this trailer as you're browsing YouTube or wherever you may find your trailers, there's a shirtless picture of Ray Fiennes, like holding a bow and arrow, and the dude is ripped. So I'm just saying, if that floats your boat and that's something you're interested in seeing, that may be enough of a reason to go check this movie out.
So the ladies may want to check this film out.
Right. I'm just saying, yeah, okay. Absolutely. The film about The Return It is the story of Odysseus. I'm saying that right?
Sure.
Odysseus.
Yeah, Odysseus. Yeah.
Washing up on the shores of Ithaca, haggard and unrecognizable. The king has finally returned home, but much has changed in his kingdom. His beloved wife Penelope, which is played by Binoche, is now a prisoner in her home. And so, he's got to kind of retake the kingdom.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of that ending of the story of the Odyssey, right? That's how the Odyssey ended. Is that right?
Yes. Absolutely.
I think so.
No, it is.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So interesting. The Return, again, a film we've never heard nothing about. Is a period piece, obviously. Ray Fiennes, Juliette Binoche, Plummer. No, not Christopher Plummer, but his son.
I think it's his son, Charlie Plummer.
Yes,
he was in Lean on Pete and some other films.
Okay,
yeah.
So he plays their son, Telmachus, and let's check out the trailer for The Return and see if there's any reason why we think this maybe is being thrown out in a couple of weeks to theaters without a whole lot of fanfare. So here we go. Here's the trailer for The Return, right after this shaving ad or something.
Nice.
Our king Odysseus, the smartest of all the heroes. He led us for 10 years in the Trojan War, before his brilliant plan to build the great horse. The Trojans thought it was a gift and took it behind their walls. Then, out poured our soldiers. Odysseus led us to victory.
People love stories.
You were there?
So that is the trailer for The Return. I mean,
so here's the thing.
Could be all right.
Period pieces on record, not being a fan.
Yeah.
Specifically with this one, you mentioned the Odyssey, Odysseus, and they mentioned going to Troy with the Trojan horse. That wouldn't really interest me, but some of the other stuff like the sirens or the battling of the Cyclops or all the other trials that he goes to, all that stuff. Granted, it's never, to me, I guess, never been done super well. You'll have the Voyage of Sinbad and all, other type Harryhausen type stuff. Mm-hmm. So, a mythology movie that was actually done with this type intent to make it serious and almost realism and that to me actually would be cool, but they're leaving all that stuff out. And all we have is just him coming home and trying to regain his status and regain his wife, get his kingdom back. But the trailer does look good. Ray Fiennes, Juliette Binoche, it looks good, but could it, will I be with it for 2 hours plus? I don't know. Why is this movie being released now? I'm thinking, now who knows whether or not it'll work out, riding on the coattails of Gladiator 2.
Could be.
Because that's
Gladiator
coming
2 is coming out this a week and a half from now.
Yeah, so it's coming out soon. So I don't know if they just thought okay, let's put out another.
That's possible.
Type piece. And
it may have been rushed up too. Conclave has been kind of for a smaller independent film. It's been a hit.
Yes.
And it's still in theaters. And Ray Fiennes is this may have been rushed up a little bit just to get it out. I don't know. I would have expected it to look like maybe a little lower budget and a little more thrown together production than what we saw. Actually, what I saw looks okay. It is a smaller scale production, right. And this is not Clash of the Titans remake or whatever.
Right.
It's a pretty smaller production, but it could be interesting. I'm curious about it.
Well, and they don't shy away from kind of showing you, maybe a disadvantage of the trailer is I feel like they do kind of show you the whole movie.
Yeah, it is kind of, you saw the whole storyline.
Because the pivotal thing of stringing the bow and shooting it through the axe handles, yep, that's pretty pivotal. So, but getting there may be the satisfying part of the movie. So we'll see.
Agreed. All right, I'm just trying to decide if there's one more trailer to show, Chris. I don't know. How are we doing time-wise? Do we have time for another?
I think we do, but...
All right, well, let's do one more then. Don't want to do a Marvel one, even though we've got Thunderbirds. That would be an interesting one.
Thunderbolts.
Oh, they're Thunderbolts, not
Thunderbirds.
Thunderbirds would be interesting too.
That's the marionettes, right?
Let's do this one. I have not seen this.
Okay.
And I'm curious about this one. So this is
a
a film.
teaser or a full-fledged?
I have no idea.
Okay.
The film is O Canada. It is a Paul Schrader film.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Jacob Elordi is in it. He was the one with Saltburn, and then we also have Richard Gere. So the concept is Jacob Elordi is playing a younger version of Richard Gere's character, and talking about dodging the Vietnam War draft. This is from Paul Schrader, who I think we didn't talk about his last film that he did.
Card Counter.
Card Counter. We did not. We did talk.
Was it the something Gardner?
I think he did something since
Card Counter. Yeah, it was something Gardner. He did.
The last one we talked about was the one he did with Ethan Hawke.
First Reformed.
First Reformed.
Yeah.
So this is a film, O Canada. It did premiere at Cannes in May. It was competing for the Palme d'Or. Didn't win it, obviously, because Anora won it, that we talked about.
Right.
But it's Richard Gere, Uma Thurman, Michael Imperioli,
oh, wow.
Jacob Elordi.
Okay.
And yes, so it's the official synopsis for the film. Leonard Fife, one of the 60,000 draft evaders and deserters who fled to Canada to avoid serving in Vietnam, shares all of his secrets to demythologize his mythologized life. So that's kind of the idea.
Okay.
Supposedly Paul Schrader has said in an interview with Variety about this film, he said that, Fife is dying and realizing that his whole life has been built on lies. And he's trying to confront himself before he dies.
Okay.
So I think it sounds really interesting. I like Richard Gere. I like Jacob Elordi. I'm interested to see how this plays out. I have not watched this trailer yet. This just came out this week. So let's take a look at the trailer for O Canada.
I forget why I agreed to do this. Tell me why I agreed to do this.
This documentary will record your progress from your arrival in Canada as a draft refugee through your career as a filmmaker.
Where's my wife?
I'm here, Leo.
I want to tell everything, for the record.
I know most of the stuff anyway.
You don't know any of it.
Okay, let's begin. Lights, please.
Leonard Fife, December 22, 2023.
Okay.
That looks great.
It looks really good.
What worries me, kind of like what we mentioned about with The Return, is I hadn't really heard a lot about it.
Yeah.
And with all the stars involved, it really surprises me and Schrader, I feel like he's had a resurgence since, First Reformed. That was just like hailed everywhere. Card Counter. And then was it Master Gardener?
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that one, but that
either.
still was, favorably reviewed. So it seems like Schrader movies were becoming a little bit more of an event. And the fact that I haven't heard anything about this, and it kind of, you said it did do some festival travels around, and I didn't hear anything. So worries me a little bit, but it really, to me, it really, really looks good.
It looks good. I'm intrigued by the concept of it, kind of this working on a documentary about this individual, and during the course of making it, it's him recalling past stories. It just, everything about it works on an idea standpoint. So
you know whose career too I'm happy to see still doing well. Michael Imperioli from The Sopranos, who played Christopher. He was so good in that, and then it was kind of like, I just don't think he's gonna be able to kind of escape that. Yeah. And then I saw him in one of the seasons of The White Lotus, and he was really good in that.
Yeah, he was good there.
And so now he's in this, and it looks like. I'm like, man, I'm glad that, because I think he's really good, and I'm glad that he's been able to kind of avoid being typecast. So,
and I know that people listening on audio podcasts, if you're not as familiar with Paul Schrader and you didn't get to see the credits that kind of flash up on the screen during the trailer, of course, he's probably best known for screenwriting the screenplays for Taxi Driver. He wrote American Gigolo. He wrote the screenplay for Raging Bull. He's been in the business for a long time, and some very, very influential films that he's helped write. He has gotten into directing. That's been a little bit of a newer thing for him in the last 20 years. But anyway, this looks so good. I'm excited. I hope it's good.
Sure.
I take it back. He did direct American Gigolo also back in 1980. So he has been directing for a while as well. Did you know, Chris, is off topic. I just reminded myself when seeing his directorial filmography here. The movie Light of Day With Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I remember. I can hear the song.
Yeah.
In my head.
It's a cover of a Bruce Springsteen song, "Light of Day,"
But it was
being
really
sung
done with the film,
with Joan Jett and Michael J. Fox, and
he did that.
He wrote and directed that movie.
Oh, I'd actually like to see that.
I would too. I saw it back when it came out, and I remember I was I was a huge Michael J. Fox fan. Of course, Back to the Future had been out a few years earlier. Everybody's all into this was like his serious like
role.
doing a serious movie. And I remember watching it. I think as a teenager, I was like, I'm bored, But I'd like to see it again now. I'm kind of curious. But yeah, he wrote and directed that movie.
I had forgotten that.
Interesting. He's
put that
done
on
a lot. He's done a lot. He's actually directed 28 films. Wow. At this point, he did a lot in the 90s. That unfortunately not a lot that we really know very well.
Sure.
But I think the last 7 or 8 years here, he's really kind of reclaimed director status with the films he's worked on, starting with First Reformed in 2017, Card Counter, Master Gardener, now O Canada. So yeah, very excited to see that.
Cool.
Okay, and that is coming out also December, by the way.
See,
December 5th.
That worries me a little, Alan, but hopefully it's misplaced.
I hope it's because it's Paul Schrader. I don't remember when Master Gardener really came out and got any big acclaim when it did.
I just remember critics talking about it.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember it hitting theaters and being,
people talking about O Canada. I hope it's good. I hope so.
Oh,
Okay, Chris, I think I'm done with trailers. I've got more I could go into. We're in this part of the season now where the good news is there are good movies like being released over the next couple of months, like good quality, well-made movies that our trailers are sprinkling out for. So hopefully the next few weeks we'll have a few more interesting ones to check out.
Agreed.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris, now for the last segment of our program here, where you do give a recommendation of a film you think we ought to check out. So, and you have actually seen this film this week. So
I have.
Tell us what you're recommending for this week's episode.
So I'm going to recommend a documentary that is pretty new on Disney Plus. It's music by John Williams. And you can guess by the title. Yes, it focuses on the composer, John Williams.
Oh, shocking.
Yes, shocking.
Yeah.
He, the fellow who has given us the music for the Star Wars movies, the Indiana Jones movies, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Harry Potter. I mean, the list keeps going. And yeah, I will say, is there anything revelatory in the film? Do you learn something like, oh, I didn't know? Not really. Mm-hmm. But what was it's kind of like a cinematic comfort food, but in the form of a documentary. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like a greatest hits of all these things that he's done. It's kind of like the Saturday Night Live Chris Farley skit where you're like, hey, remember when he composed this? And you're like, yeah, that was great. Like, we all know it's great. Mm-hmm. So do you get you do get some background information about his family, about the dynamics and maybe a little bit of the toll of having to work as constantly as he did, or as he still does. But yeah, he really talented fellow. And you have the talking heads of Steven Spielberg commenting on what a great fellow he is. Mm-hmm. But then actually a little bit more to kind of the collaboration specifically with Spielberg and how they would it wasn't just, okay, John, go off, do this, come back, give me. I mean, there was some of that, but there was a lot more of like, I want to try to do this. I want to try to do that. And Williams being like, okay. And then like kind of, so a little bit of, you get to see a little bit of the collaboration work there, but it's just an enjoyable documentary. If you appreciate his music, just, the Superman score, just the whole thing. You're just like, yeah, the dude, he's good. No surprise. Mm-hmm. But yeah, music by John Williams. It's kind of a comfort food documentary.
See, that's kind of the impression I got from, I haven't watched it yet.
Sure.
And I am going to watch it because I love John Williams. I love his scores. And, but I also don't anticipate it being anything that I'm going to learn a lot or be like this big exploration. It's more of a celebration documentary film, right?
It is. I mean, I'm not sure how old he is, but he is older.
Sure.
And probably coming towards the conclusion of his career, and everything. Yeah. But just, obviously well respected. And, as we're headed into the holidays, if you wanted to like sit down and watch it, yeah, probably little kids aren't going to be interested in this other than hearing some of the music. Like, I know that from Harry Potter. But yeah, it'd be a good family watch to kind of, obviously it's on Disney Plus. You can stream it for free. But yeah, it's just, and it's well made.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is nothing more than kind of like a greatest hits catalog, but it's well made and it leaves you with kind of a good feeling. So
well,
that's music by John
Williams. That works for
Williams.
something. That's always worthwhile as well. So great. All right. Music by John Williams is on Disney Plus, you said. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just going to give a quick little note.
Oh, yes. What was your slight recommendation?
No, it's not even, it's a recommendation,
Okay.
but I'm sure, and I think we've talked about it before. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is I got to go guest on another podcast, a film podcast that is being put on by or being produced by students at the High Point University as part of a class project, a show that they're doing. I think it's called the Film for Dummies, or film class dummies, or something like that. Basically, the premise is, which is really fun, that these people are not movie people. So
Gotcha.
They do not know movies, they don't watch movies, they don't follow movies at all. So many of the classic films or best films that people talk about, they've never seen before. So they watch a film and have somebody come in and talk to them about the film and help them understand, why is that film considered good? Why is that it was considered? It's Film School for Dummies is the name of the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
So did you do Citizen Kane, Alan?
I did not. That was
Okay.
not one of the ones given to me on a list to choose from.
Okay.
Instead, I went with Fight Club, 1999 David Fincher Fight Club, which
Heard of that.
I'll just say for the podcast discussion, it was a fun discussion we had getting to introduce them to that film. They maybe did not have quite the opinion of it I did. And I acknowledge the fact that, yes, there are some problems with the film and the ways that some people could take the messaging and the content from it. And we discussed that.
Sure.
But I still say, if you watch this film in its entirety and you are open to the idea of where it is trying to lead you to believe about what you're watching and how to feel about the actions of the people involved, I think it's a brilliant film. I think it's really, really good. And still love it. Probably enjoyed it even more this last viewing I had of it. Just getting to enjoy the cleverness of the film and just the production quality of putting it together and all the choices that were made from a filmmaking standpoint and shot selection and staging of shots to build up this idea of any surprise if you're not aware of the twists and turns in the film. It does a good job of showing you just enough to tip you off without revealing its hand until it's the right moment. And you can appreciate that more if you're seeing it for a multiple viewing and seeing that in retrospect. So I think it's a wonderful film, but
it wins the award for making Helena Bonham Carter probably look the worst she has ever looked in any movie.
I mean, everybody's dirty and
That's
wet and grimy.
But
and
she is spectacular, made to look spectacularly bad.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Miss Lovett looks like the role she played in Sweeney Todd looks like a runway model.
Yeah.
Compared
That's
to
true.
compared to
it's a grimy film, but it's got a lot going on. It's got a lot, I think, to say. You just got to take the right messages from it. Where unfortunately, when it was released and in the years following, there's been a lot of people who have taken the wrong messages from it, and it's made the film have a tougher reputation. And look, I'll admit, I think the film kind of plays its hand on the gloriousness of these men, this culture, more than it should. To where I can see where people very influential, easily influenced people could watch this film and try to take these messages from it and feel like, oh yeah, that's the kind of life and the kind of society we need to have. And that's not at all what the film's intending, but I do think the film maybe overplays the glamorousness or the coolness of some of this a little much. I mean, having Brad Pitt play
Tyler Durden, the leader of this thing, is not the best choice if you don't want people to not idolize it. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
I got you. There's some choices that I think maybe helped hurt the way it's being received by people in society nowadays. But I still think if you can look past that and you can see it for what it's trying to do, I think it's a great film. Really, really good. So, all right. So that's my mini recommendation. Fight Club by David Fincher. And then, of course, you did the music of John Williams.
Music by John Williams.
Music by John Williams, the documentary on Disney+. Okay. So that wraps us up for today, Chris. If anybody has any comments on anything we talked about, anything they want to question or chime in on or be a part of the conversation, how can they do that?
You can send an email to info@footcandle.org. We're also on Twitter at Footcandle Film, Facebook, Footcandle Film Society, Instagram and Threads, Footcandle Film. And as of a day ago, Footcandle is actually now on Blue Sky as well. So, ta-da!
The Blue Sky.
If you go to that other social media thing, we're on yet another social media platform. We have a total of 2 posts on there right now, but I will start, trying to put information over there.
Yeah.
We're also on Letterboxd, where we try to track what we're seeing. And do us a favor. If you like the show, consider giving us a star rating, write a review, share with friends on whatever service you receive your favorite podcast on, because it'll help us reach new listeners, and we'd appreciate it.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for today. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time. Take care.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Footcandle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.